Greetings, everyone. Today I would like to talk about sin, envy, wrath, lust. After all, it is kind of my jam. Today I'd like to present to you the 7 Sins Core Diver. Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Alton. I'm so glad you could join me. Hey, if you feel like it, why not hit that subscribe button so you can get all the latest mediocre content from this channel. Today we're talking about the Core Timepieces 7 Sins Diver. And this is an interesting piece, to say the least. I don't know, when they sent this to me, if they knew that I was a Presbyterian minister. Maybe they would have thought twice. Maybe they knew that I'm a Presbyterian minister and actually thought it would be a good idea to have one review this timepiece. I don't know. But what I do know is that when they said, would you like to see our watch called the 7 Sins Diver, I said, absolutely, I would love to see it. I guess the Core Timepieces company is a fairly new company. It's a few years old, started in 2018, and it started, as many ventures do, over some drinks. As a bartender was serving drinks to these guys, and he was wearing a Mickey Mouse watch, and he was in the middle of making their drink when he stopped to check an Instagram alert. And so the guys were kind of annoyed by this, and they realized that no one is living their own lives. They're just comparing their lives through social media. And so they kind of wanted to create something a little bit unique, something to encourage you to get out of your social media, which is kind of ironic because I'm making this for social media purposes. But I think it's a worthy goal nonetheless. So why don't we check out this 7 Sins Diver by Core Watches. Comes in this very nice travel pouch. I don't know if this is a production model. I don't know if this is a prototype. I think it's a production model. I'm not sure. I'm assuming it comes like this. I don't know. Here we go. Anyway, 7 Sins. Embrace or rebel. Very interesting. We'll take a look at this in a second, but I wanted to take a look at the watch first. So this is the silver version of the Core Diver. Right away, you're going to notice that it is a quartz watch. And you're going to notice right away also that where you would normally see that date, you see wrath. And let's just take a quick look at that already. So screw down crown on this, 300 meters water resistance. It's quartz, a Japanese quartz. They don't say what kind, so it's going to be relatively, well, not relatively, actually very accurate. Japanese quartzes are accurate to a few seconds a month as opposed to a day, like the Seiko I'm wearing right now, which is mechanical. All right, so out to second position all the way. You can see it hacks. You can turn these. Now, these are actually, it's a switchblade. The hands are a switchblade. The bottom part and then the blade. Kind of interesting. Now, obviously, this switchblade would never work in real life because that blade would go through the handle. And then check out, it's actually kind of nice where it stopped. It looks like a little bit of blood dropped down for the seconds hand. So a little bit of a take on that lollipop seconds hand. Very interesting. Okay, so we'll move it back into the middle position. No, we'll move it back into the middle position. And we'll give it a turn. Wrath, envy, pride, lust, gluttony, greed, sloth, which is currently my favorite right now in COVID restrictions. And then back to wrath, which is a great one. So there we have our 7 sins. And so I'm going to actually put this down for a second. I'm going to pull this out. This neat little brochure with some stats. Quartz movement, double dome sapphire crystal, lumibrite. They don't say how many layers, but lumibrite is very good. Screw down crown, 300 meters water resistance, 120 click bezel. And then, of course, the Sins window. Facebook and Instagram tags. Now, on the back is the interesting part. There's how to set the time, which I've already showed you. And then there's choosing your sin. Do you want to take control of your sins? It's your freedom to choose which sin to embrace or rebel against. And then, of course, it tells you how to do it. So, I don't know, if you're feeling particularly lusty that day, I guess you switch it to lust, or maybe just let it rotate through, and each day of the week you get to choose which sin. It's kind of an interesting idea. I mean, they probably sat down and said, okay, the date wheel has 7 options. There's 7 sins. Put 2 and 2 together, and it works. And, you know what? I like that it's not just about choosing to sin, but also, if you wanted, you could use this, you know, you're a God-fearing man or woman, to learn how to rebel against your sins. So maybe today it's on wrath, and I particularly want to not be too wrathful. Water resistance guidelines. Now, the warranty is interesting. It has a 10-year case and construction warranty, and then the movement has a 1-year warranty. Although, honestly, if the movement went in this, I'd probably just pop the case back off myself and switch out the movement, because they're pretty cheap and pretty easy to find. Also easy to service. You want to take it to a repair watchsmith, easily they could source you a new movement and pop it in if you wanted. All right, let's take a look at the watch itself. You screw down the crown, which is not easy with the gloves. Yes, I am wearing gloves. Why? I thought it was pretentious, but guess what? You're actually polishing the watch as you go, which is why I like gloves. So for measurements, we have a lug-to-lug of 51 millimeters. We have a depth, not including the NATO strap, of 14.6. And the bezel comes in at just under 42 millimeters, depending on where you grab it. And then just to give you an idea of how thick it is to the crown, it's almost 46 millimeters. And the lug opening is 22 millimeters, so you should fit a lot of straps on this. And that's a good size for a watch of this proportion. So it's a bit of a larger watch for sure, but it doesn't look that large. And it comes in at just over 100 grams, so it doesn't weigh that much. I was actually kind of surprised. It feels pretty heavy. When I picked it up, I thought it might weigh a little bit more than that. But I think that's with the NATO strap on it, and the NATO strap doesn't weigh a whole lot. So let's turn our attention to the finer details. We have a sunburst dial on this, which catches the light quite nicely. The details on the switchblade hands are actually, there's quite a few details, as you can see. But with the black colorway, it's kind of masked a little bit. I should probably be a little more clear. The hands are actually chromed, but in certain lights they look black. So depending upon the light situation that you're experiencing, they'll either appear black or have a very nicely finished chrome appearance to them. And then you have that blood drop. 7 sins, 30 Atmos, quartz, stainless. I believe they do have an automatic version, but they sent me the Quartz Core and then the Core logo for the 12 marker. No minute markings that I can see. And it does have a rotating bezel. Very clicky. You're not going to move it. A little bit of back play. You know, as most do. I don't get too fussed about that myself. And yeah, it feels pretty good. There's brushing on the side of the case. So the crown is not signed, but it does come to a point. You can see the light shining off it, which is kind of interesting. Pretty chunky crown guards. It's not a subtle watch, and it's not aiming to be a subtle watch. It's brushed on the top as well. The brushing is perfectly acceptable. Nothing wrong there. The case back comes down a little bit. And then, of course, we have this NATO strap. And to give you a look at the case back, if you meet the Buddha on the road, kill him. Okay, now that must be some kind of saying that I am not familiar with. So I'm just going to have to leave that for you to judge, but I honestly was not expecting to say that. I was honestly not expecting for it to say that. Interesting. Okay, so I actually looked it up, and it is a Zen Buddhist concept that once you actually master an idea, you kill it and then move on. Interesting. It is a little bit tighter getting this NATO through here. There isn't a tremendous amount of room. This is a fairly thin and soft NATO. Actually, it's a very nice NATO. I would easily wear this kind of NATO. I'm not a big fan of the big, heavy ones. Today I'm wearing this beautiful Seiko Pilot's watch on a cool Solomon Straps strap. Let's take this off and try on the Core Diver. Okay, and here it is on my 8-inch wrist. That NATO is very comfortable. The watch sits just fine on my wrist. It's a little long. I have a bit of a shorter but taller wrist. And the NATO strap, as you can see, it just barely makes it to that second keeper, which won't be a problem if you have a bit of a smaller wrist. But if you have a larger wrist, you're definitely not going to be able to tuck that back. Yeah, feels comfortable. And of course, if you're like me anyway, you are going to try your watch on a number of different straps, so not really a big deal. So the price for this Core 7 Sins diver is $249 US. For some of you, you might find that a little much. For some of you, you might find that completely acceptable. I think that the ceramic bezel and the double dome sapphire crystal are a big part of that cost for this. That means that it is going to be durable. It's a larger watch, and so if you have any larger watches, you know you're going to knock it on a door frame or a table or something. And so that sapphire crystal is not going to scratch. So you don't need to worry about that unless you're coming up against some big, giant diamonds along your travels. I think you need a little bit of a larger wrist for this bad boy, or if you just enjoy big watches, because I see some ladies who love to wear big watches, and I actually think it looks pretty good. What would I change about this? There is a little bit of lint on the dial near the wrath. There's another piece over here somewhere. Again, if this is a prototype, I almost always see lint on my prototypes. I think they're hand assembled. They're not to production standards. If it's not a prototype, it's something just to be aware of, but the warranty obviously is there. So if you do have an issue, they're going to take care of it. I would, if I had my way, I would take the 7 Sins and I would move it up where it says Core, and I would just leave that logo. I mean, I'd at least want to try that. I'm sure they mocked it up and checked it out, and this is what they settled on. But it just seems like there's a lot on that dial. And if this is a 7 Sins watch, like, I'd really put it right up under there at the 12. But I mean, that's just a personal thing. That's nothing against the watch itself. The bezel looks good. Everything feels good. It feels heavy. So yeah, if this is something that interests you, I think that really, if you buy this watch, you're buying into the 7 Sins factor. You're looking for something that has a little bit of novelty, something that has a little bit of whimsy about it, and that's why you're buying this piece. If you want an extremely legible watch for a lot less money, you can spend $35 and just buy regular old Timex Quartz. But of course, you're not going to get the double dome sapphire crystal or the nice material in the bezel or the screw down crown or the 300 meters water resistance. So there you go. I want to thank the people from Core for sending this on in. I enjoyed seeing it, and I will be passing it back to them. So be aware of that. They lent it in, but I will be sending it back. Thanks a lot for watching, everybody. Have yourselves a wonderful day, and please like and subscribe if that's something that you'd like to do.